Namaskaram. Today I'm going to be talking about verse 38 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. In this verse, there are three sentences. In the first sentence, Bhagavan says, viṇaimudalā āyiṉ, viḷaipayaṉ tuvampōm. That means if we are the doer of action, we will experience the resulting fruit. What does Bhagavan mean by if we are the doer of action? So there are three instruments of action, that is mind, speech, and body. So long as we mistake ourselves to be this mind and body, whatever actions are done by mind, speech, or body, we will experience as I am doing this. I am thinking, I am talking, I am sitting, I am listening, I am looking. I am sitting here doing nothing. Even, we have doership even about our inaction. I'm just doing nothing at the moment. That itself is a doership, because doing something or doing nothing both requires the sense of doership. But in sleep, we are beyond doing and non-doing, because we haven't risen as ego. We don't experience body, speech, or mind as I, and therefore we don't have any sense of doership in dream. As soon as we wake up, either in our present state or in any other dream, that in the states of so-called waking and dream, we always experience ourselves as a body and mind, and consequently we always experience ourselves as the doer of whatever actions are done by body, speech, and mind. So when Bhagavan says, if we are the doer of action, what that implies is if we rise as ego, and when we will, and consequently experience ourselves as a body and mind, we will experience the actions of that body and mind as actions done by us, and consequently we will experience the resulting fruit. Bhagavan is here referring to the law of karma. When he says we will experience the resulting fruit, he has elsewhere explained whatever actions we do in this present life, that's in this present dream, we will not experience the fruit of our actions in this present dream. What we are destined to experience in this present dream is the fruit of actions that we've done in previous dreams, that's in previous lives. All that we are to experience in our current life is already ordained, is preordained. So when we are to, what experiences we are to go through in this life, how long we are to live, in what circumstances we are to live, everything is already predetermined. As Bhagavan said in the note that he wrote for his mother, eṇḍṛum nadavādadu, eṇvichikanum nadavādu. That means what will never happen will not happen, however much, whatever effort is made. And then in the next sentence he says, nittamā nilai. That means what will happen will not stop whatever obstruction is made. That is, we cannot change even to the slightest extent what we are destined to experience in this life. But though we are not free to change anything, we are free to want to change things. It may be my destiny to catch this coronavirus and become very sick, or even to die. Obviously, I don't want that to be. Obviously, I try to take all precautions to avoid that. But if it's destined to happen, it's going to happen. Likewise with everything, we cannot change anything that is destined to happen. And we cannot experience anything that is not destined to happen, and we cannot avoid anything that is destined to happen. But we are free to want to change things, and we are free to try to change them. But by wanting and trying to change things, those are actions driven by our will. The actions that are driven by our will generate fruit. And that fruit we will have to experience. That's what Bhagavan is saying in this in this sentence. So it's important to understand whatever actions we do, there are two forces are driving our actions. One force is our destiny. For example, supposing it is my destiny to become an engineer. In order to be an engineer, I have to study, pass certain exams, get certain qualifications, then only I can work as an engineer. So all the efforts that are required to, in order to become an engineer, those actions are driven by prarabdha. That doesn't mean that they are not driven by my will, because many of us, if we end up doing a profession, which is what we always wanted to do. If we want to be an engineer, we'll probably study and be able to become an engineer. If we want to become a doctor, we'll study accordingly. So if we want to be a businessman and make lots of money, we'll work accordingly. So often our will and our destiny are working in sync. But it may be my destiny. I may have a lot of desire to be a businessman and to earn lots of money and to be very rich. But if it's not my destiny, I can work as hard as I like trying to starting businesses and this, everything will fail. If I'm not destined to be rich, I can never be rich. Some things, some actions are driven both by destiny and by our will. Some are driven only by destiny. For example, I don't want to be run over by a bus, but if it's my destiny to be run over by a bus, I will make a foolish decision, thinking I can cross the road quickly before the bus comes, and I will try and I'll be hit by the bus. So that decision to cross the road at that moment, because it was my destiny to be hit by the bus, my intellect will be driven to make that decision. That is what in Sanskrit is called buddhi karma anusarini. That's the intellect following the karma. The karma there means the destiny. And there's a similar saying in Tamil, vidimati sallam, the destiny driving the mind. That is what Bhagavan is referring to in the first sentence of the note he wrote for his mother. Abarabha prarabdha prakaram adakanavan angangirandu atavipan. Abarabha prarabdha prakaram means according to the destiny of each person. Adakanavan means he who is for that. That is a very indirect way Bhagavan is referring to God or Guru, who is the ordainer of prarabdha. He who is for that. Angangirandu. Angangirandu means being there. That means being in each place. The implication is being in the heart of each person. Ātuvipan. Ātuvipan means, literally it means we'll make them dance. In other words, we'll make them act accordingly. So if it's my destiny to become an engineer, he will drive my intellect in that way that I make a decision, okay, I want to study engineering, I want to become an engineer. So some of our actions are being driven by prarabdha. Some of our actions are being driven by our will. Sometimes it may seem to us that because we wanted something, we have achieved it. But it's not actually because we wanted it, but we've achieved it. Because we can want so many things and not achieve them. We can want something, but only if it's already in our prarabdha will we achieve it. If we want it and we achieve it, then the actions we take to achieve it are being driven simultaneously by destiny and by will. If we want it and we fail to achieve it, that means those actions were driven only by our will, not by destiny. So we cannot tell which actions are being driven by will and which actions are being driven by destiny. All we can say in retrospect, if we look back on our life and see that the decisions we made and what consequences those decisions had, we can understand, oh, I was driven to do this because it was my destiny. But that doesn't mean that our will wasn't involved. So in most of our actions, our will is involved in some way or other, even though our will can always be overridden by destiny. That is, not destiny cannot override our will. That's not quite the right way of saying it. If we want to do something and it's not our destiny to do that, the destiny will override our ability to do it. So I want to climb to the top of Mount Everest. So I make all preparations and everything, but somehow or other destiny will obstruct me because it's not my destiny to do that. The destiny has the final say over which actions we are permitted to do. But within the scope of destiny, we're free to do a lot of actions. And even if destiny prevents us doing something, I want to stand for election to become president of the United States. If it's, however much I may want that, if it's not my destiny, I won't be able to do it, but destiny will allow me free to make all the efforts to try to do so, but not my destiny. So some obstacle will come along the way and prevent me doing so. So it's very difficult for us to say which actions are being driven by will, or to what extent any action is driven by destiny or by will. Usually our will is involved in most of the actions in one way or another, but ultimately it's destiny, only the actions that will bring about our destiny, only those actions fructify. So when Bhagavan says, if we have a doer of actions, obviously we don't experience the fruit. If it was my destiny to become, if it was my destiny, say, to be involved in a car accident, to cause a car, to be driving carelessly and hit someone, if that was my destiny to do that, I will do that. If I did it, if it was purely an accident, but I had no intention to do that, then there's no fruit for that. But if I, say, was driving recklessly, driving faster because I wanted to reach a meeting quickly, if my will was involved in that action at all, if it wasn't a pure accident, then there will be a fruit for that. So we cannot work out what actions are according to our will, what actions are according to destiny, what actions are a mixture of both. But only those actions that are driven by our will are the ones that will bear fruit in future lives. And when in each life we can, there's a limit to what we can experience in each life. We live for 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever it may be. In that short period of time, we can only experience a limited prarabdha, that is a prarabdha that extends in that period. But during the course of our life, we want so many other things, but we're not destined to experience. And we try to achieve so many things which we're not destined to achieve. So generally, in each life, we are accumulating more, that is, the action we do by our free will, by our will, those are called agamya. The actions, the fruit of our past actions, which we now experience, is called prarabdha. So we usually do more agamya when we exhaust the fruit of past karmas. So there's a store of the fruit of our past karmas called sanchita. So every life, we are exhausting a small portion of our sanchita, but we're accumulating a bigger portion. So the sanchita is growing bigger and bigger and bigger because of all our desires, our likes, dislikes, and so on, that are driving us to do actions or to hope for things or to desire things. These are all creating fruit for future, to be experienced in future. So how is it determined which fruit we experience in each lifetime? According to Bhagavan, that is determined by God or Guru. That is, there's so many unexhausted fruit, fruit that had been stored up from previous lives that we haven't yet experienced. Those actions will, all those fruit it will be from that bundle of fruit, from that heap of fruit, Bhagavan will, in each life, will select which fruit will be most beneficial for our spiritual development, and will chart out our prarabdha accordingly. So in this very simple sentence, in this sentence, Bhagavan is giving a very simple principle. If we are a doer of action, we will experience the resulting fruit. That's a very simple statement of fact. But though this is the general principle, it's actually how this process works is actually much more involved than that. Our desires and likes, dislikes, fears, and so on, they're all very complex. And since it's our desires which drive this cycle of karma, of doing actions and experiencing their fruit, the whole process is complex. But who is the doer of all this action? It is the I that rises as I am this body. The I that rises as I am this body, that is ego. So it is this rising I, but doership, I mean, this rising I is the one who has doership and who consequently has experiencership. Doership and experiencership always go hand in hand. If we experience ourselves as the doer of actions, we will experience ourselves as the experiencer of the fruits of past actions. So this is the first sentence. When Bhagavan converted Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu into a Kalivemba form, he added a relative clause before this first sentence, viṭṭupōndra. Viṭṭupōndra means which are like seeds, and it qualifies the first word, viṇai. Viṇai means actions. So with this Kalivemba extension, this first sentence is viṭṭupōndra viṇaimudalā āyiṉ viḷaipayaṉ tuyppōm. That means if we are the doer of actions which are like seeds, we will experience the resulting fruit. The reason why Bhagavan says that actions are like seeds is because they give rise to the vast spreading tree of samsara, which is the perpetually revolving cycle of births and deaths. There are one or two other things that I'll explain in this sentence. The word that Bhagavan uses for viṇaimudal, for the doer of action, is viṇaimudal. Viṇai is a Tamil word that means action. It's more or less the equivalent of karma in Sanskrit. Mudal means the beginning or the origin or the originator in this context. So the originator of action, it implies the doer of action. So in Tamil grammar, the subject of a sentence is called viṇaimudal, meaning the doer of whatever is the action, whatever is the action of the main verb. So what he says is viṇaimudalā āyiṉ. If we are a doer of action, viḷaipayaṉ. Viḷaipayaṉ means the resulting fruit, the fruit that results from our actions. Fruit means if, according to the law of karma, good actions produce good fruit, bad actions produce bad fruit. So if we do actions that are kind and generous and helpful to other people, those actions will give good fruit. As a result of doing such good actions, we experience good fruit. Good fruit means we'll experience pleasures in one form or another. If we do bad actions, we experience bad fruit. That means pains. So the resulting, and many actions are neutral. They're neither particularly good nor particularly bad. So in what we experience in our life, it's a mixture of pain, pleasure, and a lot of the things we experience in life are neither particularly painful nor particularly pleasurable. Because this all reflects what the actions that we've done in the past. Not in the past in this lifetime, past in previous lives. So that is the first sentence. In the second sentence, Bhagavan says, viṇaimudalā eṇḍṟu viṉavi. That means, I'll read the whole sentence first. viṇaimudalā eṇḍṛu viṇavi, taṉaiyaṟiyak, karttattuvam, karumam, kaṛalum. What that means is, when one knows oneself, investigating who is the doer of action, doership will depart, and all the three actions will slip off. He starts this sentence with a question, viṇaimudalā, who is the doer of action? But actually, though it's in the form of a question, it's not meaning that we should actually question that, because he said, viṇaimudalā eṇḍṛu viṇavi. Viṇavi can mean asking, but in this context, it means investigating. Merely asking who is the doer of action isn't going to, isn't self-investigation. Self-investigation means we've actually got to look at ourselves to see, who am I, the one who is feeling I am a doer of action? So when he talks about viṇaimudalā eṇḍṛu viṇavi, he means investigating ourself, ourself, this ego, who now seem to be the doer of action. Taṉaiyaṟiyak, when one knows oneself. Viṇavi is an adverbial participle. Aṛiya is an infinitive, but in Tamil, infinitive is often used in the sense of when, as a conditional, in a conditional sense of when. So, though he doesn't actually say by investigating, the by is implied here. The whole clause is, when one knows oneself, investigating who is the doer of action. That implies when one knows oneself by investigating who is the doer of action. The by is implied there without being stated explicitly. So what happens when we know ourselves? Firstly, karttattuvam. Karttattuvam is a Tamil form of the Sanskrit word kartrutva. Kartrutva means doership. Poi means it will go, it will depart. Or literally it means doership departing. Karumamūṇḍrum, kaṛalum. Karumamūṇḍrum means the three karmas. Kaṛalum means they will slip off. What is meant by the three karmas, as I mentioned briefly earlier, the actions that we do with using our will, those actions are called agamya. That's one of the three karmas. Then the fruit of our agamya gets stored in sanchita. Sanchita means a store or a heap. That's all the fruit of all our past actions which we haven't yet experienced. So that's the sanchita. That's the second of the three karmas. The third one is prarabdha, which is our destiny, the fruit that we are due to experience in this lifetime. So all these three will slip off. In one verse in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, Bhagavan, in some texts it is said, just to suit people's level of understanding, because people generally take the jnani to be a person. So for example, we see Bhagavan Bhagavan seems to be a person, he seems to have a mind, and he answers questions, and he goes to the kitchen and chops vegetables, or he walks around the hill, or he walks up on the foot of the hill, he sits on his couch, he answers questions. It seems to us that Bhagavan is doing actions. So it is often said in scriptures that for the jnani, prarabdha alone remains, but the agamya comes to an end, because the jnani has no individual will. So obviously the jnani doesn't do any agamya. And the sanchita is also destroyed. So only karma remains, and that will be exhausted when the jnani's body dies. Bhagavan says in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, even that is not correct. He gives an analogy. If a man is married to 3 wives, if he dies, all 3 wives become widows. The husband in this case is ego. The 3 wives are the 3 karmas. So if ego dies, all the 3 karmas are finished. So it's only in the view of the onlooker. Bhagavan doesn't experience himself as a body or mind, But in our view, he seemed to be a person with a body and mind. So it's in the view of the onlooker only, but viṇaini seems to be a person and consequently seems to be experiencing prarabdha. But actually, the truth is, all three karmas are finished. Once once ego is finished, the doership goes. Along with doership, the experiencership also goes, and all the three karmas slip off. So if we, as I say, the basic meaning of this sentence is, when one knows oneself, investigating who is the doer of action, doership departing, all three actions will slip off. What that implies is, when one knows oneself as one actually is, by investigating who is the doer of action, ego, which is what seemed to do actions and experience their fruit, will thereby be eradicated. And along with it, its karttattuvam, doership, and its bhoktrutva, experiencership, will depart. And hence all its three karmas, agamya, sanchita, and prarabdha, will slip off. So we seem to be caught up in this cycle of action and the fruit of action and the perpetual, this is called samsara, this perpetual circle of doing actions and experiencing their fruit, and while experiencing the fruit of old actions, we're doing new actions by our will and creating more fresh karma. This will go on without end until ego is destroyed. So long as there is ego, there will be, so long as there's ego, we have likes and dislikes, desires, attachments, and so on. So we continue doing agamya, and consequently we continue experiencing prarabdha. As ego, if we try to follow the path of surrender, we can reduce the strength of our likes, dislikes, desires, fears, and so on. But still, we cannot be completely free of likes and of desires and likes, dislikes, and so on, and fears, so long as we survive with ego. So inevitably we continue doing, to a greater or less extent, agamya, and the cycle goes on. The only way to kill this tree of samsara is to cut the root. What is the root of the tree of samsara? It is ego. The I that rises as I am this body, I am this mind, I am thinking, I am doing, I am this, I am that. That is the problem. So ego, Bhagavan's teachings are all focused on ego. Bhagavan isn't concerned about anything else. He's concerned only about ego, because ego is the root of all problems. Ego is the culprit. So if we eradicate ego, all other problems are solved. Bhagavan isn't much concerned about sin or about good actions, bad actions. Who is the doer of all these actions? It is I, this ego. So what is this ego? If we investigate this ego, since it has no real existence of its own, we seem to be ego only when we are attending to other things. If we turn our attention back to face ourselves, to attend to ourselves, ego will, as he says in verse 25, Tedinal otum pidicum. If sought, it takes flight. So ego seems to exist only when we don't look at it. When we're looking elsewhere, looking at all the other things of this world which interest us so much, we seem to be ego. But if we look back to see who am I who am interested in all these things, the more our attention is focused on ego, the more ego will subside. Other things, all phenomena are fed by our attention. The more we attend to something, the bigger it looms in our experience, in our awareness. Now we are all very concerned about coronavirus. So it's true. I mean, true from a material point of view, it is a very great threat. But many of us, many people are so worried about this. It is creating a lot of mental stress. That is because the more we dwell on anything, the bigger it looms. Okay, there is this coronavirus. Some people are going to die. We may be among those that. But if we are following this path of self-investigation and self-surrender, we won't be overly concerned about these things. That doesn't mean, of course, we need to take all the appropriate precautions, both to protect the person we seem to be and to protect others. But we shouldn't allow our mind to dwell on these things too much. So, because I mean, this is just one example, but I mean, anything in life, some people have certain phobias. The more they think about the thing they're afraid of, the more their fear grows. It's like that with so many things. Or people set their heart on, my neighbor's got a better car than me, so I want to get a better car than my neighbor. So we want the latest Ferrari or whatever. I don't know what all these cars are called, but once we set our heart on something, on getting something that we don't have, it begins to loom larger and larger in our view. So when we get that car, we're, oh, I'm so happy I've now got my Ferrari. But after a few days, we're used to having a Ferrari. It's no longer so exciting. So this is the nature of phenomena. The more we attend to any phenomena, the bigger it appears to us. Bigger. I mean, I'm not talking bigger in size, but the more significant it appears to us, the more we dwell on it. So phenomena are fed by our attention. Ego is quite the opposite of phenomena. Ego is fed by attending to other things, but if ego attends to itself, it dissolves and disappears. So the more we attend to ourselves, the more ego will subside back into our real nature, which is the source from which it rose, that is pure awareness. So Bhagavan says, if we investigate who is the doer of action, we will thereby know ourselves, and doership will depart, and all the three karmas will go along with it. And then in the last sentence, he says, nittam-ām mutti nilai. That literally means the state of liberation, which is eternal. The implication obviously is this is the state of, this is not stated here, but it's implied here. This is the state of mukti. Mukti means liberation, which is eternal. This is a very significant term he uses here. He refers to mukti as nittam-ām. That means which is eternal. Why does he say liberation is eternal? Because our real nature is ever liberated. It's only when we rise as ego, but we seem to be in bondage, but we are never actually in bondage. We are always pure awareness, which is ever liberated. So liberation, according to Bhagavan, is eternal. He talks more about this in the next verse, which we'll talk about, well, next month, but next month means actually it will be next week we'll be talking about this, verse 39 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu. But it's important to understand that according to Bhagavan, if liberation, Bhagavan often used to say, if liberation was something which we could attain anew, what comes has to go. So if we could attain liberation, we would also lose liberation. We cannot attain liberation because it's ever attained. It's always here and now. The only thing is we don't notice it because we seem to have risen as ego. If we look at ourselves and see what we actually are, we will see that we are eternally liberated. So liberation is not a new achievement, it's our natural state, it's our real state. And in the Kalivemba version, as I say, in this sentence, there's no explicit subject, but the implied subject is this, and this refers to the state described in the previous sentence, namely that in which doership has ceased to exist and all the three karmas have consequently come to an end. So there's no explicit subject here, but he makes the subject explicit in the Kalivemba version, because in the Kalivemba version, he extended this sentence by adding one more word at the end of it, idai. Idai is an intensified form of idu, which means this. Idu means this. So idai means this alone, or this indeed. Therefore, with this Kalivemba extension, this final sentence is nittam-ām mutti nilai idai, which means this alone is the state of liberation, which is eternal. So that is this verse 38. This is a very, very important verse because somebody, I mean, he alludes to the law of karma here, but he indicates that the law of karma is entirely dependent on our sense of doership. Because we experience ourselves as body and mind, we experience ourselves as a doer of action, and consequently we have to experience the resulting fruit. But if we investigate who am I who seem to be doing all these actions, ego will subside and disappear. Along with it, its doership will go, and all its three karmas will go. And what remains is what is ever present, which is the eternal state of liberation. So, if anyone would like to ask any questions.
I think in this context, the Upadesa Undiyar statement, Viṇayin viļaivu viļivutru vittāi viṇaigadal vilpidam. So, karma is always sink or drown one in the ocean.
Yes.
Ocean of karmas, just literally get sucked into it or get drowned. So there's no way out except for Atmavichara.
Yes, yeah. What you're referring to is verse 2 of Upadesa Undiyar, for others who don't know. The meaning of what Bhagavan says in verse 1 of Upadesa Undiyar is oh, sorry, my mind's just gone blank. Yes. Karumam payaṉ, karttattuvam. Karma giving fruit is by the ordainment of karta. Karta there means God or Guru, who the same one who Bhagavan referred to as Adhikana when in the note to his mother. So according to that is the fruit of actions is the giving of the fruit of action is according to the will of God, according to the ordainment of God. That is, God selects which actions are to give which fruit. Karumam kadavalo undipara, karumam jadamadal undipara. Is karma supreme? Is karma God? Karma is insentient. The implication is karma is not God. Karma doesn't give its own fruit. It's only God who ordains the fruit of karma. The context in which Bhagavan said that is the story of the Dharakavarna rishis. They were Purva Mimamsakas, which is one of the Indian philosophies. They believed in the supremacy of Vedic karmas, and they believed that if you perform Vedic karmas, they give their own fruit, and so it's not they don't even accept God, or they think God is unnecessary. God is, if at all there's a God, he's subservient to karma. So they take karma to be supreme, but Bhagavan repudiates that. Then in the next verse he says about karma, that's the verse you were referring to, Viṇaim viļaivu viļivutru vittāi viṇaimudal undipara vidu taralele undipara. When the fruits of action, Viṇaim viļaivu when the seeds of actions the fruit of action come to an end. That is, if we experience the fruit of some action that we've done in the past, that action is finished. I mean, that fruit is finished, but it still remains as a seed. It's like for example, an apple. We can eat the apple. The apple is finished, but the seeds remain. And if you plant those seeds, we'll get more apple trees. So karmas are like that. The seeds that Bhagavan refers to here is the inclination, the vasana, the tendency to do the same action again and again. For just to take a simple example, this isn't strictly what, if I have a liking for some particular type of food, let's say I have a liking for drinking a particular alcohol. the more I drink that, the more I'll like to drink it. This is how people get caught up in addictions, they become alcoholics or drug addicts, because the more they do it, the more they want to do it. Because they get a little pleasure each time they do it, and so they hanker for that pleasure again and again and again. So it's the same with any action that we do tends to create, if that action produces a pleasurable result, it tends to create an inclination to do the same action again and again and again. So whatever the nature of ego is to be ever dissatisfied. So we're always seeking satisfaction, and we get satisfaction from little pleasures in life, from tasty foods, from certain watching movies or taking part in sports or watching sports, but each of us have our own likes and dislikes. So certain things give us pleasure. And the more we indulge in the things that give us pleasure, the more the tendency to do that again and again. So it's like that with any action. When we do an action, not only does it give a fruit that we have to experience as a pleasure or pain or some neutral experience in some future life, I mean, that's the fruit of the karma, it also leaves seeds, that the inclination to do the same actions again and again. Inclination here, what is called a vasana. So even though we experience the fruit of the action, still the vasana to do the same action remains. Therefore, action immerses us in the great ocean of action. There's no end to, if you continue doing actions, it's a never-ending cycle. So Bhagavan says it drowns us in the great ocean of action. In Sanskrit, kriti mahodado patana karanam. So that's the nature of action. And therefore he says in the last line of that verse, vidu tarile, it does not give liberation. That means action doesn't give liberation. However much we engage in action, that is not the means to liberation. However, in the third verse, he makes a concession. He says, kartanuk kakum nishkarmiya karumam karte tirti aktundi para tati varikam bikamundi para. That is, if actions that are done nishkarmiya karma, that means action that is not motivated by desire. That means if we do some action without expecting any benefit from that, any fruit from that, and if we do it kartano kakum, if it's done for God, that means for the love of God, or offering to God, such actions will purify the mind and show the way to liberation. What he means by show the way to liberation, it will give us when our mind is purified, it becomes clearer. And then we're able to with a clear, purified mind, we'll be able to recognize that the way to liberation is self-investigation and self-surrender. But one important thing to understand here is if we do a nishkarmiya karma for the love of God, what is actually purifying our mind is not the action we do. Because it's not, we could do the same action with a different motive, and then it wouldn't purify the mind. So it's not the actions that we do that purify the mind, it's the love with which we do them. That is the freedom of the desirelessness, that is the freedom from desire for the fruit, and the love for God with which we do the action. That is what purifies the mind. Because the mind here, what part of the mind is purified? It is the will. Because all the impurities in the mind are our desires, our attachments, our likes, dislikes, hopes, fears, all these things. These are the impurities in our mind. Why are they impurities? Because they're what drive our mind to go outwards, seeking pleasure, seeking happiness outside ourselves. So it's the purification. That's why in Sanskrit it's called chitta suddhi, purification of mind. Suddhi means both purity and purification. chitta specifically means, often it's used generally to mean mind, but the specific meaning of chitta is the will. So it purifies the will. That means it reduces the strength of our desires and attachments, likes and dislikes, and so on. In other words, it reduces the strength of our vasanas. The will is nothing but the sum total of all our vasanas. So by purifying our mind, it frees us from desire and attachment for things other than ourselves and gives us that liking to attend to ourselves. So, but what is purifying the mind, as I say, is not the action itself, but the love with which we do the action. And then in the next verse, Bhagavan talks about, he said there are three types of action: action by mind, speech, and body. The action by if we do nishkarmiya karma, offering the fruit to God, by body, that is puja. If we do it by speech, it is japa. If we do it by mind, it is meditation. I mean, he goes through each of these, and he says each one is more efficacious than the previous one. And finally, he comes to, after talking about meditation in verse 7, in verse 8, he says, rather than meditate, well, he doesn't say it in quite these words. What he says is, Aniya bhavatin avanahamaham ananya bhava me undipara anetyanum utumu undipara. Aniya bhava means, in this context, bhava means meditation, but it can also mean attitude. So aniya bhava means meditating on God as if he's something other. Aniya means what is other, meaning what is other than implying what is other than oneself. So aniya bhava means meditating on God as something other than ourselves, or having the attitude that God is other than ourselves. Rather than that, avanaham ahum ananya bhava. Ananya bhava means the meditating on me as not other than oneself. If we meditate on God as not other than oneself, what does that mean? We meditate on him as I. In other words, we meditate only on I. And to clarify to emphasize the meaning of ananya bhava, he says, avanahamaham. That means in which he is I. So when we recognize that God is not something other than ourselves, God is what is shining in us as I, and therefore if we meditate on I alone, that is what Bhagavan means by ananya bhava. And that he says, rather than the anya bhava, the ananya bhava is nittam-ām uttamam, that is the best of all. But what exactly does he mean by best of all? He's in the previous verses, he's talking about the various means by which we can purify the mind. So of all the types of spiritual practice that will purify the mind, the most purifying is self-attentiveness. That's what he calls ananya bhava. So by turning our attention back towards ourselves, that is more purifying than all this puja, this japa, and all other forms of dhyana. This is swarupa dhyana, meditation on our own real nature, meditation on I alone. So that is the most purifying of all. And that is not an action. Whereas all attending to anything other than ourselves is an action, because our attention is moving away from ourselves towards some other thing. Whereas when we attend to ourself alone, our attention isn't moving anywhere, it's just resting in its source. So self-attentiveness is not an action. So in the next verse, in verse 9, he says, Bhava balatinau bhavanatita sabhava tilutale undipara parabhakti tattva mundipara. That means bhava balatinau, that means by the strength of meditation. What meditation? He's referring to the ananya bhava in the previous verse. So in other words, by the strength of self-attentiveness, bhavanatita sabhava to irutale, being in one's own state of being, one's true state of being, which transcends bhavanatita, means which transcends meditation. Meditation in the sense of a mental activity. Bhavana means when we meditate on something other than ourselves, that is a bhavana, because we have to have everything other than ourselves is a product of mind. So when we meditate on it, it's a bhavana. So beyond bhavana, that means it's beyond all meditation, beyond all imagination, all it's beyond all mental activity, we can say. Sat bhava tirutale. Sat bhava means in that one's true state of being. That being in that true state of being alone is parabhakti tattva. That is the principle of supreme devotion. So the highest, the best sadhana of all, and the highest bhakti of all is just being self-attentive. Because when we attend to ourselves, ego subsides, we remain in the state of just being, which is beyond meditation. That is the true. I mean, in the next verse, Bhagavan says, Udita idatil odungi iratal. That means subsiding in one's, the place of one's rising. The place of one's rising means our source, our real nature, that from which we've risen. So subsiding in that place and being. So being, subsiding and being in the place from which we rose. Adu karumam bhaktyam undipara. That's karma, meaning the path of nishkarmya karma, and bhakti. Though it's a non-action, but one says it's karma. That's the aim of karma yoga. That is karma and bhakti. Adu yogamum jnanam. That is yoga and that is jnana. So all the four types of spiritual practice are all included in this practice of self-investigation. Because when we attend to ourselves, ego subsides, it remains in the state of being, which is the source from which it rose. And that is all of that, because all these other sadhanas are aiming only for this. So investigating what we are, that is all the four sadhanas. But I've talked too long because I see the 3 hands are raised.
So let's start with Yazan, please. Yazan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Michael, thank you so much for the wonderful talk on karma. My question is, so you've mentioned prarabdha and sanchitanagamya. So my question is, from my understandings of the reading, that it is to attribute mukti to prarabdha is incorrect. From my understanding, it is that this is something that has to do with the vasanas of your prior sadhana. Yes. So I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on this.
Okay. Well, as Bhagavan said in verse 2 of Upadeshundya, that I was talking about earlier, karma cannot give liberation. If liberation could be a result of prarabdha, prarabdha is the fruit of actions that we've done in the past. If it could be the result of actions, are all finite. So how can a finite cause give an infinite effect? Liberation is beyond all, it's infinite, it's beyond all limits. So karma can never give action, can never give liberation, sorry. But when we do any spiritual sadhana, as you say, it creates a certain vasana. But that's a good vasana. But for example, if you're often meditating on God, thinking about God with great love in your heart, I mean, not just mechanically thinking about God, but just with great love in your heart, that will create the liking to more and more think about God, to more and more dwell on the kindness and the compassion and the love of God. That will that's a good tendency, which will bring about humility, it will bring about love, kindness, and everything. But sooner or later, it will bring about the sufficient purity of mind to understand, so long as I take God to be other than myself, I am actually limiting God. If God is the infinite whole, who am I other than God? How can I be anything other than God? Once some Christian missionary came to Bhagavan and said, isn't it blasphemous to say, I am one with God? Bhagavan said, isn't it blasphemous to say I'm anything other than God? Because if we claim I am other than God, we are limiting God. If he is the eternal whole, the infinite whole, how can we be anything other than him? Who is this I who, in one of the verses of Paticum, Bhagavan says, if everything is not other than you, then who is this I who rises as if another? I think in verse 8 or 9 of Paticum he asks. So who are we to say that we are, I mean, who are we to claim separate, an independent, separate existence from God? He alone exists. We are nothing. That's where that's the point bhakti leads to. So the highest form of bhakti is surrender. If you truly love someone, you are not if you're in a loving relationship, you're not looking just for what you can get from a loving relationship, what the person can do, that person can do for you. True love is what we can give to the other. So the highest love of all is to give oneself to the one loves. So if we truly love God, we should want to give ourselves entirely to God. That's complete surrender. So when that purity of mind comes, then, okay, I want to surrender myself to God, but who is this I who feels separate from God? And naturally, our attention turns within. So it is only by self-investigation and self-surrender that liberation cannot come by any other means. So long as we take God to be other than ourselves, we are clinging to the illusion, because it's only in the view, only when we rise as ego, but there seem to be other things. In sleep, we're not aware of anything other than ourselves. That is the true state of God, the state of oneness. The state in which there's separation, multiplicity, that is the state of ignorance. So it is all sadhanas gradually lead towards self-surrender. And self-surrender can be complete only when we investigate, who is this I who wants to surrender myself? Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Michael. Yes, that's a wonderful explanation.
You're absolutely right. Many people think, oh, it's not my prayer, maybe it's not my prarabdha to experience, not my destiny to get liberation in this lifetime. Maybe I have to wait till it's got nothing to do with destiny at all. If you wait for destiny to give liberation, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. Destiny, what destiny will do, it will give you some shocks and make you understand eventually, but you're not going to get anything from destiny except trouble.
Michael,
destiny, give up. Yeah.
Ram, go ahead. You're asking something. Go ahead.
Michael, a related question there for me is, you said action which is finite does not give infinite result.
Yes.
And you said surrender is the way to get there. Did I get that right so far?
Yes,
I have a question
yes.
to ask. Okay. So can you kindly get into the mechanics of that surrender? I mean, that surrender and love, these are aspects which are pretty nebulous for me. What exactly are the mechanics behind that surrender? What exactly happens?
Surrender begins on the path of bhakti. The more we love God, the more we want to give ourselves to God. So we recognize, if we're trying to follow the path of bhakti, we recognize that our own desires are what are coming between us and God. So we want to give up our desires. We want to lessen our desires. So we want to have more and more love for God and less desire for things other than ourselves. So slowly on the path of bhakti, we can, to a certain extent, reduce the strength of our desires and attachments. Whatever may happen, okay, nothing can happen except with the will of my sweet Lord, the sweet will of my Lord. So God is, if I'm undergoing this hardship, it's because God has given me this for some good reason. So we slowly subside more and more. We don't ask God, oh no, I don't like this, take this away from me. If I'm experiencing this, it is because because God has given it for my own good. So, so slowly, we reduce the strength of our desires and attachments, but we cannot completely get rid of desires and attachments, likes and dislikes, so long as we remain as ego. The root of all desires and attachments and things, they're like the leaves and branches of the plant. The ego is the root. So if we want to root out the plant, we need to cut the root. So we need eventually to get to ego. So that is why surrender must eventually lead to self-investigation. The most perfect form of surrender is self-investigation. That's why Bhagavan says in the 13th paragraph of Nāṇa, Arma chintane kabira. Vera chintane kalambavadku satram idam kodamo. That means without giving even the slightest room to the rising of any thought, other than atmachintana. Atmachintana literally means thought of oneself, but the implication is self-attentiveness. So giving no room to rising of any thought other than self-attentiveness, anmanishta paranai iripte, being one who is firmly established as oneself, taṉai isanaku viļaipayaṉ. That alone is giving oneself to God. So ultimately, the surrender can be complete, can be brought to completion by self-investigation. Because if we don't know ourselves, how can we surrender what we don't know? We must know the truth of this I that we are trying to surrender. We cannot surrender what we really are. We can only surrender what we seem to be. So we have to investigate ego in order to surrender it. And as Bhagavan has revealed, the nature of ego, it flourishes so long as it's attending to anything other than itself. When it attends to itself, it takes flight. It subsides back into its source. So the surrender can be complete only with self-investigation.
So that's beautiful quote from Nāṇya. I was also thinking that that one syllable is stresses. Taṉai ஈசனுக்கு அளிப்பதே is so the A means indeed that alone. It is surrendered to God alone. And that alone.
The A is on the irupade.
Right. Sorry, the abiding on the self alone is surrendered to God.
Yeah, yes.
So beautiful, and it really stresses it there with that A syllable.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, basically, abiding on own self is indeed alone. Is surrendered.
Absolutely, yes. So surrender cannot be complete without self-investigation. We can partially surrender without self-investigation, but complete surrender comes only with self-investigation.
We have two questions. Next, Rabi, please. Rabi Day.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
One thing that I heard from you this morning or your afternoon is that we are ever liberated.
Yes.
That we have all these struggle is because we have reason as an ego, and as a result, what we should do is to know who I am, and by self-investigation. But since this question of destiny comes, again and again, and I've always sidestepped the issue because I've never really understood. But I thought I really came close because of the example you gave, to which we can all relate to. Suppose we have a car accident that is a suffering for me, the driver, and the other people involved in the accident. And then the question is, what caused the accident? Is it my destiny or my will? And if you think it was a momentary lapse in attention and it was supposed to happen, I couldn't have prevented it, and you accept it. So that's an attitude post-accident. But you could also say, I was driving recklessly, even though the cause may have been to, as you say, your desire to attend a meeting in time, which is a good desire. But then because of that will to drive recklessly, you create karma, and you get into this thing. Did it create a fresh karma because of the doership, or did I just burn up my sanchita or prarabdha?
Yes. But we cannot tell perfectly whether which action we know, but whatever happens is according to destiny. So if we're involved in an accident, that's definitely destiny. But that doesn't exonerate us if, for example, if we've been driving recklessly because we were in a hurry for something, that we are still culpable. So our will may also be involved. Just because if something has happened, it happened according to destiny. But that doesn't mean it didn't also happen according to will.
Okay, so I take it that it's not fully knowable, so why not just ignore it and focus on it?
But one thing we have to remember, why Bhagavan taught us the law of karma. Whatever Bhagavan taught us, he taught us for a purpose.
Right.
The purpose is to help us in our practice of self-investigation and self-surrender. So when Bhagavan taught us about prarabdha, and he said, what is destined to happen is going to happen, you cannot avoid it. What is not destined to happen cannot be achieved. That relieves us of if we think deeply about that and accept what Bhagavan says, that relieves us of so much concern about external things. It doesn't mean that we don't act appropriately. Now we've got this coronavirus. We know that social distancing and washing hands and these sort of precautions, this saves lives. This is in a mundane sense. So we protecting by observing these guidelines, we are protecting not only the person we seem to be, we're also protecting others. We're slowing down the speed of spread of this. So obviously, from a mundane point of view, we have to act appropriately. Just like we don't say, oh, everything's according to destiny, I'm going to stop eating, because if it's my destiny to get food, the food will come into my mouth. That would be foolish. Maybe if we're destined to eat food, we will put the food in our mouth. So we have to act appropriately according to the circumstances. But inwardly, we should be detached from all these things because we know what is going to happen is going to happen. It is already decided how many millions of people are going to get sick, how many thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions. We don't know. We don't know now. Those who are destined to die of this are going to die of it. But because we live in a mundane world where our actions seem to have consequences in this life, we have to act in an appropriate way. But inwardly, we should be detached from these things. We know if it is my destiny to get this coronavirus, to become very sick or even to die, there's nothing that it's going to happen. And it's all given by Bhagavan for our own good. So we accept whatever happens. I think there's a saying in Arab countries, tie your camel to the post and then leave it to God. that means you take you behave in an appropriate manner. You don't just leave your camel to say there and say, let God take care of my camel. The camel will run away. You tie it to the post and then leave it to God. So we have to act appropriately in this world, because we act appropriately. If we think, oh, I don't have it, whatever's going to happen is going to happen according to destiny, so I don't have to wash my hands, I don't have to bother about social distancing and things, that's an inappropriate way to think. That's like thinking, oh, if I'm destined to get food, I'll get food, so I'm not going to bother to put any food in my mouth. No one else is going to put food in your mouth if you don't do so. So you've got to, Bhagavan used to say, in a dream food satisfies the dream hunger. What he implies by saying that is, in the dream you have to act according to what appropriate to the dream. And another thing we have to remember, who is acting? It is body, speech, and mind that are acting. They are themselves a part of this dream. So they should act in a way that is appropriate according to a dream. The problem is not the actions. The problem is the doership. And the doership arises because we take the body and speech and mind as I. That is when we, so the problem is our rising as ego. Because when we rise as ego, we cannot rise as ego without experiencing a body, speech, and mind as I. If we experience a body, speech, and mind as I, automatically the doership and experiencership is there. So the only solution is cutting up the root. That's why Bhagavan said, if we investigate who is the doer of action, and thereby know ourselves, then all this whole cycle of, endless cycle of birth and death will come to an end.
Shohan,
The sole purpose of all that Bhagavan taught us, as I say, including this karma theory, is to help us to turn our mind within and to be unconcerned about other things. If we know that whatever is to happen is according to destiny, we will act appropriately in life, but we will not be perturbed about the outcome, whatever that may be. Let anything happen. Nothing can happen without the consent of Bhagavan. And whatever he consents to is what is good for us. That should be our attitude.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple more questions. So
next question is from Shohan, please.
Yes, namaste, Michael.
namaste.
Can you please say something about the thought process, thoughts, purification of the mind, atma-chintana,
Okay.
how it all relates?
Right. All thoughts.
The ego, of course.
Yeah, okay. A thought is nothing but the attention we pay to something other than ourselves. Though Bhagavan referred to self-attentiveness as atma-chintana, it's strictly not a chintana, not a thought. All thoughts are the attention we pay to something other than ourselves. So why do we attend to anything other than ourselves? Because of our desires, attachments, and so on. So the desire to be aware, to experience anything, or to be aware of anything other than ourselves is what is called a viṣaya vasana. Vasana means an inclination or propensity. Viṣaya means a phenomena. So everything other than ourselves is a phenomena. So if I like to say watch football on television or something, that liking to watch football rather than attending to myself, that is a viṣaya vasana. My liking to attend to myself is not a viṣaya vasana, that is what is called satvasana. So in the course of practice of self-investigation and self-surrender, we are weakening our viṣaya vasanas, our inclination to attend to anything other than ourselves, and we're strengthening our satvasana, our inclination just to attend to ourselves, who is what actually is the sat. So in every moment of our life, we have a choice. Either we attend to something other than ourselves, or we attend to ourselves. It's not quite as simple as that, because we often our attention is divided between a number of things. So when we're trying to turn our attention towards ourselves, we're not able to completely withdraw it from other things. But the more interested we are in knowing ourselves, the more we'll be attending to ourselves. The more we attend to ourselves, the more our inclination to attend to other things drops down, and our inclination to attend to ourselves gets strengthened. So we don't have to worry about thoughts, in the sense that we don't need to struggle to get rid of thoughts, because if you decide you don't want to think, that itself is a thought. Bhagavan used to say, if you don't want to think of a monkey, don't think, I mustn't think of a monkey. If someone tells you don't think of a monkey, of course you think of a monkey. Think of an elephant instead. So we shouldn't be concerned about thoughts at all. Let thoughts come or go. Bhagavan said, what does it matter how many thoughts come? Whatever thought may appear, to whom does it appear? We should turn our attention back to ourselves. So our aim is not to get rid of thoughts. Our aim is to attend to ourselves. If we attend to ourselves, we'll be less and less inclined to attend to thoughts, and more inclined to attend to ourselves. And the less we attend to thoughts, the more they slip away. But if you think, oh, these thoughts are bad, I must get rid of these thoughts. I must, there's a story in the Ramayana. Rama had to fight against Sugrivan was the rightful king of the monkeys, but his brother had taken the throne from him. His brother was called Vali. So Vali had how Vali was able to take his brother's throne and how nobody was able to defeat Vali. He had done tapas and he had got a boon from some god. But whoever he faces in battle, he should get half of their strength. So he's already very strong. So even the most powerful opponent who comes before him cannot defeat him because he gets half their strength. So because what he had done was unrighteous, he had not only taken Sugrivan's, his brother's throne, he'd also taken his wife. So what he had done was unrighteous. So Rama had, when Sugrivan asked Rama for help, Rama had to back what is righteous. So he backed Sugrivan, but he cannot face Vali in battle, because if he faces him, even though Rama is God himself, he cannot defeat Vali because Vali has his boon. So he told Sugrivan, you go and challenge your brother to battle. And Sugrivan went and challenged his brother, and Rama hid behind a tree and shot Vali from behind. And when Vali challenged Rama, how can you have done such an unrighteous thing? He said, well, what you did is unrighteous. And he said, but what you're looking for, you want support to go and rescue your wife from Ravana. I would have, if you had asked me, if you had had me on your side, I could have gone and defeated Ravana for you easily. Rama said, I knew I could have done so, but I didn't want to do so because Ravana has stolen my wife. You've stolen your brother's wife. How can I ask you to, when you committed exactly the same crime as Ravana? So because of your unrighteousness, you had to die. So this is the story, but how this story is applicable here is, if we fight against our thoughts, we're giving them half our strength. We can never defeat our thoughts by fighting about them. That's why Bhagavan said, don't let any number of thoughts come. Don't bother about them. To whom do they come? So we take thoughts as your friend. Every thought that comes, it comes to remind you, who knows the thought? I do. So every thought should remind us of our own existence and turn our attention back to ourselves. Because it's all a matter of interest. If we're very interested in other things, we'll be running after all our thoughts. But the more we cultivate the interest to know ourselves, the more the thoughts will be our friends, because they come to remind us, oh, look at yourself. Why have I appeared before you? Because, I mean, as if the thoughts are saying, of course the thoughts aren't saying, but we can picture the thoughts as coming to remind us, you're attending to me, you should be attending to yourself. I appear only because you watch me. I couldn't appear if you didn't exist. Attend to yourself. We should take it with thoughts are reminding us like that. Then no thoughts are a problem. The problem is our interest in attending to thoughts. That's what gives the thoughts. Thoughts have no strength of their own. The strength, whatever strength thoughts have, is the strength we give them because of our interest in them. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very nicely. Thank you so much. That was very profound. Thank you.
And we've got one more question.
Yes, last question, Deepthi. You have to unmute yourself, Deepthi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 It's dark in that room.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Hi, Michael. I want to know, so since you just said, if we attend to our thoughts, we strengthen them by giving them our attention, right?
Yes.
So collectively at this phase, humanity seems to be attending to the coronavirus.
Yes.
So are we thereby strengthening that kind of a virus mentality? Or in other words, what I'm trying to understand is, does Bhagavan or the self know anything of coronavirus, or is it just me as the ego in whose view coronavirus is appearing?
Coronavirus exists only in the view of you as ego. This is a part.
So when I sleep, Michael, coronavirus does not exist.
It doesn't exist. But in your current dream, it does exist. And
Sorry.
in this current dream, we have to respond appropriately. But what is important, it is necessary, of course, to take all the necessary precautions. But we shouldn't allow ourselves to worry about these things too much. It is natural. People, I mean, we can sympathize with people are very, very afraid. And people are undergoing a lot of hardship. We can sympathize with them, but we are following Bhagavan's path of self-surrender. So we shouldn't give room to worry. We should act appropriately. We should wash our hands. We should practice social distancing. We should do all that is appropriate, but inwardly we should remain calm. Even if, supposing we are destined to catch it, we cannot avoid it. Supposing we are destined to become seriously ill, we cannot avoid it. Supposing we're destined to die by it, we cannot avoid it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't take the precautions. Precautions are appropriate. We take the appropriate precautions, but we leave it at that. Inwardly, we remain calm. Actually, because this is a challenging time for all of us, this is a very good opportunity given to us by Bhagavan. We will all, there can be hardly anyone in this world who is not affected in some way or other by the impact of this pandemic. People are in all sorts of, there are people who live in high-rise buildings. They may have 2 or 3 children. They have to stay in their flat because it's not safe to go out. They go out, it's dangerous for them and it's dangerous for others. So many very difficult positions people are in. We can understand the difficulties of others. We can understand, we can sympathize with their fears, with their worries, with any economic problem. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Michael. So what I'm trying to understand is coronavirus just a projection of that's a projection of the ego, but it doesn't exist in my real self. So
this is a dream.
So Bhagavan, for instance, like in Bhagavan's view or the self's ultimate awareness view, there is no us, so there is no coronavirus.
No. There's no dream at all. The coronavirus is a part of our dream.
So in other words, we are strengthening it by attending to it.
Not quite in that way. We're not strengthening the coronavirus. The dream is going on according to prarabdha. What we are strengthening by it, if we are worrying about it, if we are feeling fear, that is strengthening our concern about it. We're strengthening our worries about it. That's why we need to outwardly act appropriately, but inwardly remain calm. It is according to prarabdha. These are not new things. When Bhagavan was living in Tiruvannamalai, at one time there was a cholera epidemic in Tiruvannamalai. Bhagavan went and lived in Pachamankkoil, where the whole town was evacuated by the authorities. So these things happen. These things have been happening throughout history.
Right.
we are fortunate now we've got modern medicine and things, but we've become too complacent because we haven't had a major epidemic for nearly 100 years since the Spanish flu. We think, oh, because of our modern medicine, these things can't happen. These are all things in the past. We've become complacent. Hardly any country was prepared for this.
So it's not something that we need to blame our ego or ourself for. Like it's another, in other words, it's not our, it's just happening despite us.
It is according to destiny. What we need to blame ego for, we need to blame, ego is not something other, we need to blame ourselves for rising as ego. Because we have risen as ego, we are dreaming this dream. And in this dream, sometimes everything is going nicely, sometimes these troubles come.
Yes. And it is a choice I'm making, like moment by moment, whether to rise as ego or abide as myself.
Exactly.
So in this moment, I'm choosing to rise as ego.
Stop rising as ego, but the more you attend to yourself, the more you subside. And the less concerned you will be about. Concern means we're concerned in the sense we sympathize with the trouble, with the difficulties people are undergoing, but inwardly we are remaining detached from these things. Because we know, according to Bhagavan, what is to happen is going to happen, what is not to happen is not going to happen. So how many people are going to die of this coronavirus? How many people are going to become seriously ill? This is already determined. So let us inwardly remain calm. That doesn't mean that we don't sympathize with those people who are suffering. A lot of suffering is there. We feel for these people. But our job, we can't stop this suffering. We can do what we have to do, like washing our hands, social distancing, things to minimize the spread of it. But beyond that, what can we do? We can't do anything. So inwardly we have to accept all these things are happening according to Bhagavan's will. It's all opportunity given to us by Bhagavan to surrender ourselves.
Thank you, Mike. So there was a couple of comments on the chat. Rams asked, "Is COVID-19 just a thought?" And and I think the answer is yes. That's also a perception.
The whole world is a thought.
Exactly.
But just because it's a thought doesn't mean we can get rid of it so easily. The root of all thoughts is ego. Until we get rid of ego, these thoughts of this world and of coronavirus and all wars and famines and pleasures and pains, all these thoughts will come. They're all come accompanying ego. If you want to be free of all these things, get rid of ego.
And another devotee made a comment, isn't the coronavirus the infinite whole too?
There is only the infinite whole. There is no coronavirus. The infinite has no room for the finite. It is only in the view of this finite ego that all these finite things seem to exist. In the view of the infinite whole, which is our real nature, pure awareness, there is no coronavirus, there is no world, there is no ego, there's nothing. There's just Satchidananda. Beginningless, endless, Anadi, Ananta, Akanda, Satchidananda, as in Upadesha. So that is the ultimate truth. But now we have risen as ego. There seems to be a world, there seems to be coronavirus, there seems to be so many problems in this world caused by coronavirus.
Yeah.
But when we fall asleep, then there's no coronavirus, no world, nothing. Then we're peaceful for a few hours, then we come back again and have to start worrying about all these things again. But Bhagavan says, even when you see this world, don't worry about it. Don't carry the burden on your head. You're traveling on the train. Put your burden aside. The train is carrying the burden anyway. The train means Bhagavan's grace. Leave the whole burden on him. Our aim is to subside within and be calm and peaceful. So this coronavirus, it's come as a wake-up call to us. We've become far too complacent. We think, because most of us are fortunate, we've lived our life. Like in my case, I've lived for 65 years. I've never been involved in any war, in any famine, or, I mean, many of us have been protected from a lot of the calamities that people normally face during life. So for many of us, this is a first. So this is a wake-up call. Life is like, we become far too complacent. We think that all our technology, all our modern medicine, our science and everything takes care of everything. It doesn't. People are dying as they've always died. Maybe the causes differ from time to time, but life is very fleeting and insubstantial. Because nowadays, most of us live to a good old age, into our 70s or 80s or whatever. We take that for granted, but we're going to live so long. But who knows? Next day we could get hit by a car, we could have a heart attack, anything could happen. But this coronavirus reminds us of the uncertainty of our life in this body. Nothing is certain. The only thing that is certain is I am. That is Bhagavan. He's always shining in our heart as I. That is the one thing that we can always be sure about. Everything else is uncertain.
So there was a question on the chat. Is there a contradiction between the first part of the verse and the second part of the verse under discussion? I believe that's from Satya.
Okay. No contradiction at all, because what Bhagavan says, he first says, if we are the doer of actions, we will experience the resulting fruit. But are we the doer of actions is basically what he asks himself. Who is the doer of actions? If we investigate ourselves, we'll find the doer of actions is ego. If we investigate ego, we find there's no such thing. Therefore, doership and the three karmas all cease to exist. And what remains is what always exists, which is the eternal state of liberation. Bhagavan doesn't say in the first sentence, we are the doer of action, therefore we experience the resulting fruit. He says, if we are the doer of actions. It's only in the view of the ego that we seem to be the doer of actions, and that we consequently seem to experience the resulting fruit. Does that answer the question? Or do you still think there's a...
I think so. I think so. I think Satya probably mostly hasn't raised any objection, so I'm assuming it did answer the question and he's satisfied. Anyone else has any questions? So if not, Michael, can you just quote any verse from Aksharamana to conclude our session, if you don't mind, please? So something devotional.
Giri Yuruvahi Kirupe Kadale Kripe Kondaralu Uvayaranachala. Giri Yuruvahi Kirupe, ocean of grace in the form of a hill, bestow grace. That was the first one that came to my mind.
That's good. That's good. Yes, the ocean of compassion.
Yes. But what is grace? Grace is nothing but but Bhagavan is our own real nature, and he is the one infinite whole. So he loves us as himself. His love for us as himself is what we experience as his grace.
Right.
That when we say the love that he has, that is the love that we as we actually are have for ourselves as we actually are. That is what manifests us as grace. And that is the power which draws us back to ourselves. But we have to yield ourselves to that grace by turning within.